Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be about auth and role-based routing with Expo Router. And for those who've used Expo Router before, it can be hard, it can be complicated. But now you could protect every route in your Expo app with just one line of code. And you can do that because Expo Router's new Stack.Protected feature makes authentication and role-based authentication simple, almost entirely too simple. So that's what I'm going to try to cover in this video. But before we get to that, let's just briefly talk about the chaos that we all know in the past. Normally in the past, what you end up doing is like you'll go into here in my app, and what you'll do is like up here on the top, you'll write some code that says something to the effect of like if no user, and then you do something like this. Like my AI is kind of trying to crank it out. It just redirects you back to the authentication route. And you end up putting that all over the place inside of your code. And if you don't do that, then the other hack that you do is you go into your layout, and in your layout up here, you're constantly checking, hey, do I have a user or not, and setting them off somewhere. And then the other thing, which I'm going to show later, is like, how do you handle roles? So once you're authenticated, I need to determine what your role is. All that gets here real fast. We have a solution to the problem, and I'm using it right here. It's called, not Stack Screen, it's called Stack.Protected. So first, let's talk about how my directory structure is laid out to make all this work. Because what you'll find with using Expo Router, since it is a file-based router, your directory structure matters. So what we have are these two segments. They're not folders, they're segments. We have our app segment, and we have our auth segment, and then we have our top-level layout. And if you notice, we have an index inside of both my app and my auth. The index inside of my auth is literally my login page. And the index inside my app is basically the home page. And then what we do, this is so simple it's going to blow your mind, is inside of our layout. So now since my layout is inside my app directory, it is the layout for all of these pages. So what we do inside of here is this layout, we have our stack, and with our stack, we have our screens. So we have our app index screen, and then we have our auth index screen. So here inside my layout, this is where all the magic happens. We create our stack, and then inside of our stack, we put our screens. So we have our app index, and then we have our auth index. And as I mentioned before, my auth index is the login screen. And then what we do is we wrap these screens with the Stack.Protected. This Stack.Protected, all it's doing is saying which routes will be accessible. It's not redirecting. It's not doing anything magical. It's just saying these are the routes that will be accessible. So what happens is that when we come in here, if my user is not null, meaning I have a user, then this route, app index, will be accessible, i.e. rendered. If my user is null, then this route will be rendered, i.e. accessible. The key thing to remember is this is not doing any redirecting. It is just showing which routes are accessible in this stack. And so that's the beauty of it, and that's how it makes it so simple. Now, what I've done here just for testing purposes, I have this kind of simple use auth hook that I have up here. So you can see right now we're going to my home page. So if I reload this, and if you actually look down here, you can see in my logs, it renders the layout, then it's loading, renders the layout, it has a user, and since it has a user, it's going to show me my home page. If I go back up here and I comment this out, set my user to null, save, you can see it's redirected me to my sign-in page. And so let's just reload this. It comes up and it just goes straight to my sign-in page because that's the only route that is available, right? Now what we're going to do here is we're going to change our user up a bit, and we're going to add a role to our user. We're going to say role admin, and let's make our user available. And let's update this here to say role string. Now that code's fine. And now when I reload, let me comment out to set user null. So now I reload, I'm on my home page. Let's make some other quick changes here. Yes, it's only visible to signed-in users, but let's also, leave that here, but let's add another page in here called admin. .tsx. And we're basically just going to copy what we have in index. We'll put it in our admin, paste it down, only visible to admin users. So this will be admin home. And let's go back to our layout. All right. And so we have our user here, but let's go down and add another route. So, and I'm going to kind of make a little bit more sense. So if I have a user and user role is admin, actually all I care is if I have a user. So if user does not equal null and the user's role is admin, then we want to go tier to admin. Then we just add another, and then we say here, if it's not admin, then go to index. Well, let's reload this. All right. And if we go up here, see I set my role to admin. So I'm on the admin page. It just falls into the admin page for me. And if I switch my role to user, you can see it's only giving me my regular home page. And then if I disconnect, we just get our sign-in page. And it's all being managed right here, kind of in a declarative way that you could just visually see what's happening when you go through every step. And then the last thing is just, there might just be some pages that are always visible. And so what you could do is, let's go in here and let's just say rename about.tsx, about, and this is visible to all users. Let's change this to about. And then what you'd want to do is you would just drop this. If I go back into my layout, that would just be outside of all of this because it doesn't need to be controlled by any of these guards. So ideally pages that, let's kind of move this a little bit, move this down here. So we have our auth screens down here, and then up here, we have our app screens, and then down here, these actually are our admin app screens, general app screens, auth screens, and then this is for everybody. About screen is visible to all users. And I think, let's see if we can do one last trick to show that. Let's go into our auth screen and just quickly put a button in. And we're going to send this to app about. So we'll see that I'm not logged in. Why didn't it take me there? Hold on. So let me just change the order of these screens so that they appear appropriately. So now I can still go to the About screen, even though I'm not signed in. And the same thing if I go to let's go to my Auth screen. Let's copy this button and go to my regular app. Let's get the missing imports, get the button. And so where did I put this? I put this in the regular home. So now let's go back to our layout. Let's activate our user again. I go into our fake use auth. So now it reloads. We're a regular user, and I still have access to my about route. So just to quickly wrap this up, we saw how through literally just one line, you're controlling access to different routes and whole navigation stacks within your application with this new Stack.Protected. We showed how we can use it to show you protected routes, so like our admin screens and our app screens, unprotected routes here with our auth screen, and then screens that are available to all users. They're just not inside of any guard, so they will be visible to everyone. Obviously, this would be much more complicated. You'd have a much more complex use auth call for user loading, but you could see the simplicity of all this. There's not a bunch of checks for authenticated users and roles scattered all throughout your application. I think this is an excellent addition to the awesomeness of Expo Router. Just to wrap this up, the important thing is it simplifies authentication and role-based access with Stack.Protected. It has a nice clean directory structure with index files, and you can kind of visually see what's going on with your application. And just the way how it's extremely declarative. You can look and see you can look at the code and tell exactly what's supposed to happen and what's supposed to be accessible. So my recommendations use, if you want to simplify your authentication and role-based access in Expo, you should without a doubt take a look at Stack.Protected. It's relatively new, but check it out. It's pretty simple. Documentation is good, and hopefully this video has been helpful. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.